This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
You grew up in Utah, but you went to school back east. You're going to school here. Were you guys both born in Utah?
Yep.
St. Luke's, Salt Lake City.
Oh, so there you go. Yeah. Nice. So, and then have you lived in Park City your whole life?
Up until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our parents decided to move up to Idaho. Was it
during COVID?
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. COVID. My mom was born and raised in Utah. I lived up in Park City. My dad's from Baltimore. Our dad is from Baltimore. Yeah, they just wanted to change the scenery. Park City started to get very Los Angeles-like. Traffic going out to Redstone. They were just like, what is this? So Eli was already at school for 2 years, then took the gap year, and then I went to school, and then they moved, and they've been up there 3 years. So, but our uncle's here in our grandma.
And then you're not LDS, right?
No, our mom's side of the family is like my mom's parents raised 8 children LDS. Only 1 out of the 8, the eldest who we were with a couple nights ago, is still LDS.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a bishop of the church in Pepperwood.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is he? Okay.
He's a legend. That guy's so cool.
Jeff Weber, he's a legend.
So what was it like growing up in Utah not being a member? Is it as prevalent up
Park
there?
City is like very diverse. Like I'd say out of the whole population of Park City, maybe 5%'s LDS, 5%'s Jewish, and then the rest is just like mountain
everything
people.
Else.
Yeah.
I get that question a lot.
Exactly.
Mark. And I would say that if you live in Salt Lake in the Valley, it's a whole different story. But Park City, like Eli was saying, there's such a small population of the LDS community. I had 1 or 2 friends that are LDS.
Yeah.
But
I do think people have a lot of misconceptions of what Park City is like. I mean, now it's different, but when we were growing up, like, it's very rough and tumble, honestly. Like for kids growing up there, like people chase adrenaline up on the mountain. So you're like, throwing double backflips off snowboards and skis and doing crazy downhill mountain biking. And so that dopamine that, people are chasing on the mountain, they chase in substances off the mountain. So from a very young age, like pretty much everyone in the middle school, high school is like getting exposed to drinking and drugs and like partying. And, hey, you have like 15-year-old kids, like bringing 30 racks of beer, sneaking taking their parents' cars. And so you definitely get exposed to a lot. And I think people just think it's like, this super wealthy community, which it totally is, but there's like a big range of income levels and like experiences. So, yeah.
I was kind of secluded from that. I grew up on the ski team. And it was from such a young age, we were always so busy with training, and I went to the winter sports school up there. And so the group of friends I had, everyone was kind of just working towards ski racing. And so there wasn't really that opportunity to go to the high school and be exposed to all that stuff. But as I got older and as I went to college, you had to hear stories and look back on it. I was like, was that really going on?
It's an interesting thing too, right? Because I grew up in Highland Alpine area, so Lone Peak High School, right?
Right.
And my graduating class was like 97% LDS.
That's crazy.
Like wild.
Were you a member growing up?
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah. I was a member until I was about 27.
Okay. What made you leave?
Good question. Yeah. I have a political answer for it, then I have a very specific answer for it, right? The political answer is I just realized it didn't really align with me anymore. Mm-hmm. There's certain teachings that they have. Polygamy is a big one for me. Like I didn't like that, But when I went on a mission, I just served a mission in Scotland, right? And when I came home, I noticed like just a lot of hypocritical things that were going on. So I was trying to reconcile those in my mind. And the deeper I went with like stake presidents and bishops and stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, you guys have no idea. Like this is a little fly by your seat. Mm-hmm. It's also when all those essays were coming out with the church. Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. Those essays were kind of like confessions to things that they hadn't admitted to previously, right? And so it was pretty damning, right? Like I grew up in a world where Joseph Smith wasn't married to anybody but Emma, right? Wow. And then they came out with an essay that basically said, no, he's married to all these different people. One of them,
really? Yeah, I didn't know that.
They even said in one of the essays that one of them was almost 15.
No way.
That one line alone angered me to the nth degree because I'm like, she wasn't almost 15, she was 14.
Yeah.
Right?
Literally.
Like, I'm not almost 43, I'm 42.
Yeah. Can't water that one down.
Yeah, when I hit it.
That's tough.
Yeah. So I just thought it was a little deceptive, right? But I really view all religion very similar to that, right? Just pick your poison. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like every religion has some truths. Every religion has some really dark, bullshitty thing, you know? And like, I don't think people who are religious are bad. I think actually most people who are religious are trying to be better versions of themselves.
Totally.
And so, but just for me, I just did not align with me anymore. And I know it's kind of a vague term.
So are you religious at all anymore? No.
I was actually atheist for a really long time.
Really?
Probably until like 3 4 years ago, I've kind of like Well, when I left the church, I kind of just burned it down in my mind, right? I'm just like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's true. You know, it's really hard actually uninstalling a belief system like that, right? Because
Of course.
it's pretty easy just to be like, yeah, I just obey and endure to the end and I'll be in heaven. So it doesn't matter what happens so far. You know? Then you go all the way down to like, oh, I might only have one shot at this and I could be stardust when this is all done. So I better live it up a little bit. You know,
100%.
at least accomplish some stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting for us because similarly to you, it sounds like our parents had like a very intense religious upbringing, both of them. Like my mom with the church and my dad, his mom went to a bunch of different churches, but
she couldn't quite figure it out.
But no, by the time she passed, she was a Messianic Jew, which means she's one of 300,000 Jewish people that believe in Jesus, which is very rare, very unique, and I think kind of cool. But like growing up, you know, my parents never never went to church, never went to temple, anything like that, never even really talked about religion other than, you know, my dad was like, you know, figure it out, like make your own opinions, form your own opinions, do whatever you want. So I thought that was pretty cool. And when that grandma passed away on my dad's side, I definitely like started having more like religious experiences and like thinking like, hey, maybe there's something there. But I agree that like the institutional part of religion where you're being like given a doctrine that you must follow to get a result is not necessarily the best approach for like generating good people. It should be more about like coming to that yourself and like realizing like, hey, I want to do good things to be a good person and to grow and like become better, rather than just like doing it to follow a rule book that's given to you with your head down.
That was the biggest thing when I never followed religion is I felt like I didn't want to rely on something to make me a better person. And no offense to anyone that's religious. I just figured for myself personally, I wanted to follow my own morals to get better. And that was
You know, exactly. I mean, when I left the church, it's funny, right? So a lot of people assume that I wanted to drink and sin and whatever you want to call it, right? And, you know, now that I've been out of the church for like 15 years, right? Like people are more like, oh, you're still going to do this, huh?
You're still a good
like,
person.
Pretty convicted at this point. But like, I mean, obviously religion and history are the same thing, right? I mean, that's where a lot of our texts come from and history comes from. And you know, there's not a war that's ever started on this planet that wasn't, you know, has a religious tether to it. And I look at history over the years, and I just realized that, you know, religion was to control people. And quite frankly, part of the time they needed to control them, right? Like you needed, you know, you might have, I mean, pick Germany, you know, in like, you know, 800 AD, right? Like there's only so many people there and there's information doesn't pass very quickly, right? So to keep people kind of in line, you marry them to an ideal. You know, we do it now politically all the time, right? We actually do it with marketing all the time. Yeah. So, you know, like alcohol beverages are a perfect example, right? Like there's guys like my grandpa drank Jack Daniels, my dad drank Jack Daniels, I drink Jack Daniels. We're a Jack family, you know? It's not that much different than like, you know, I grew up Mormon and my grandpa was Mormon, my dad was Mormon, you know what I mean? Like this is our set of beliefs. And it's like, you just kind of fell for the marketing.
Absolutely. But at the same time, I think like, you know, every human's just out here trying to figure it out. And so like you said, the history and religion being the same thing, I think is spot on, because it's just like a bunch of guys and girls like writing down their observations and their experiences and trying to make sense of like this reality that we're all living in. And so like, yeah, I recently started reading the Bible just out of curiosity. And it's like, you know, almost every story is like, oh, this village followed the bad gods and then they got destroyed by God. And then this one followed the good God and then they got castles and prosperity and grain. And so
absolutely,
it's funny, but I think it speaks to like kind of what you said about just being a good person or being a bad person. Like if you're doing good things for yourself, for your community, your family, good things are going to come to you. Yeah. If you're doing bad things, like bad things are going to come to you.
Well, and I have a philosophy / something I've learned, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But like your past really doesn't matter, right? It's actually not really a good indicator of your future either. Your decision-making is, right? And so if you've chosen something bad in your past, like it doesn't mean it's going to repeat in your future all the time, especially when you're cognizant enough to realize it's something bad that hurts you, right? So say you had a terrible friend, right? But you had him since you were 5, right? You'll eventually wake up and be like, I like this person, but I also can't have them in my life. So you just get rid of them. It's just a choice, right? So because you were friends with them for 10 years, it doesn't mean that, you know, their bad influence is going to change you. You know, it's just kind of a philosophy thing for me where it's like, no, like if you always dwell in your past, right, you're going to get depressed, right? And if you live way too far in the future and you worry about the future, you just have anxiety. So the closer you get to just being present all the time and just living your life and being present, you don't have any of that other bull crap and you can really focus and get stuff done, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you guys, you know, with you guys' business and stuff we'll get into in a minute, right? Like 100%. You grow it the most when you're disciplined and you just work on it.
Yep.
I heard something that was like 99% of what you worry about never happens. And I used to be so stressed out about the future. Like, how can I make this work? I want to go to the Olympics. I want to do this and that. Yeah. But like, once you start to realize, if you can just focus on the moment, focus right now, 99% of what you worry about never even happens. That's 100%. True. It's so true.
Yep.
And it goes back to what we were talking about right when we walked in about like doing the work and making the decision to do the work. Because like a lot of people can make a decision to like go to the gym or to go do a cold plunge, but like making the decision like in your brain to like stop what you're doing and put pen to paper is something that's really difficult for people. Yeah. And when you talked about the past not being important, I agree, but I also think like most people don't understand the way that the brain works. They assume that, you know, your consciousness, your sense of reality, your ego is what's responsible for your reality and your drive and everything that you do. When in reality, 95% of your brain function is subconscious. And so if you have been programmed, you know, or taught religion your whole life, that's going to be programmed into you on a subconscious level. Yeah. That's like kind of like you said, burn it down when you got back, and all these beliefs are changing, and what you thought the perception was is very different than what you're perceiving now. Probably is a tough thing to like grapple with.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like one thing for me is like reading and writing, you know, like simply putting pen to paper and like writing something down programs your brain for productivity. And same with reading. Like if you choose to pick up a book instead of Instagram or a magazine or even a website article, your brain is all of a sudden in work, productivity, discipline, decision-making mode versus like passive scroll, have someone else decide for me mode, which makes a big difference.
Our partner, Kyle, he has this infamous rule. It's called the 5-minute rule. And if you're sitting there and you're having trouble with procrastination, if it takes less than 5 minutes, just do it now. And I used to be so bad at the little things like folding my clothes or something so simple, sending an email. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the 5-minute rule changed my life. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, these two things will take 2.5 minutes each. You know, get it done.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
See, I like that too, because I like the efficiency side of that, right? It's just like be efficient.
Totally.
Like it's the, you know, I don't want to make it dramatic, but it's probably one of the best things you can learn as a human, right? The more efficient you are, the more time you have for joy, the more time you have for happiness, the less time you spend worrying about dumb crap or doing dumb crap.
Totally. I made a video about that yesterday because one of the biggest topics we've talked about with people is how have you managed to build this multi-million-dollar conglomerate while being in college? And the answer is simple. It's time management. If you set a certain amount of time away for school, you set a certain amount of time away for work, and then in between that, you set time away for friends, girlfriends, whatever you want to make it, changes totally. It's so true. It all comes down to time management.
Yeah. When I first, so my very first semester, my first and second semester of college, I was not married, but I met my wife in the first semester.
Where did you go to school?
UVU, actually. Yeah. Nice. And so we, actually, it was funny. I got home from my mission, right? And I just got into school. I hadn't it had been a long time since I was in school, right? So I just took the entrance exam at UVU, and I was like, I'm just going to start knocking generals out, and then I'll transfer over to BYU. That's what I thought at the time, right?
Right.
And then right when I came down to transfer over, I was doing pre-law, and BYU dropped their pre-law program.
Oh, no way.
You know, 2 years in, I was just like, I want to be done. And I actually had swapped from accounting to pre-law. So
oh, really?
I graduated with I can't remember exactly now because it's been a minute, but like 160 credits or 165 credits or something like that.
Oh, so you finished school?
Yeah. I have a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. So it's my technical degree.
Wow. Yeah. So he's versatile.
Yeah. Dude, looking back, I probably should have just done another semester-ish or just dual majored with an accounting degree. But and maybe it would have taken me 2 more semesters. I don't think I didn't matriculate into that program as deep as I probably needed to. But I can't forget what I was telling you about college. Anyways.
Coming back from your mission.
Oh, yeah. Coming back from my mission. So I just got in there and pounded it out as fast as I could.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I actually like college. I was a good student, but some days you just got to go get it done. You start doing things.
Did you find it challenging? I mean, I want to learn more about when you started kind of your business or entrepreneurial career, but did you find it hard managing school and other things that you were doing? Because I think one of the biggest misconceptions these days is that school is a full-time job, and that's super not true.
Depends where you go and what you're studying.
Very true. Unless you're going to the Wharton School of Business or Harvard or an Ivy League or there are hard schools, but at the University of Utah, there's no chance I spend anywhere close to 40 hours a week on school.
Yeah, no. Well, it also depends on your skill level, right? Mm-hmm. Also depends on how efficient you are. I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
And if you have AI or not.
Yeah, we didn't have that crap at all back
totally.
Totally, yeah.
So for example, right, I would go, the way I structured, so I worked full-time and I went to school full-time. I did 22 credits almost every single semester, right?
That's what our mom did too, to put herself through school.
Yeah, because I still graduated in 4 years, but I graduated with basically almost a degree and a quarter.
Right.
Because I swapped.
That's crazy.
Don't swap, children. It's really expensive. Nowadays, it's wildly expensive.
Yeah.
I transferred and most of my credits didn't transfer.
Yeah.
So he's doing an extra year.
See, that's crap.
Victory lap, Mark.
Yes, sir.
But you know, so I would stagger my days. So I did a lot of night classes. So there's semesters where I went to work all day, and then I just did night classes and Saturday classes. Right. Then there's other ones where I had to go, you know, like Tuesday or Thursday or whatever the schedule is, right? So I would stack like a class and a class, and I'd have like 2 hours of free time, which wasn't really free time. That's when I got my school done, right? Then I went to class and kind of repeated that. And so then on the days I worked, so if I went to school Tuesdays and Thursdays, I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday generally. And so, but I was either going to get an A or an F. There's literally nothing in the middle. It was like 4.0 like every semester, right? I mean, every now and again I get like an A-, or my very last semester I got my first B+ in mediation, which I was freaking livid about. But I didn't get my grade until like 2 days before we graduated. And by the time we graduated and I got the thing, I'm just like, who gives a shit? It's not even going to affect my GPA.
That literally just happened to me. I was like, I was such a tryhard in school. Like my freshman year, I studied Mandarin and had like the full course load, and I was spending like almost 100 hours.
Back to high school it goes. Eli was all that throughout high school. He's like the president of Future Business Leaders of America, and he's doing all these crazy AP classes. And he's like, dude, I can't hang out. I need to study.
Yeah, it's true. It's so I definitely like. So after
you'll be rewarded.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I totally was with like the schools I got into and stuff. But it was funny because I wasn't really like that until I blew out my shoulder, where I was like getting recruited for lacrosse and was set on that, and I was like decent at school, like great grades. But when I lost all my offers because of my shoulder, I was like, all right, I need to really try hard in school. And so that's when I started taking all the APs and joining the clubs and running.
Did you do the SAT or the ACT?
Both.
Which one did? Because you went to Wharton, so which test did they take?
They took both. I reported ACT. I had like a 35 super score.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I took it like 10 times though.
Oh,
because I'm not a great test taker, so yeah.
Well, I took the LSAT, and I studied my ever-living ass off for that. Do you guys know what the LSAT's like?
Yeah.
So you have like a reading section, right? And you have a game section, and then you have a short answer section, right? I realized as I studied this test, I cannot read and retain stuff I don't care about. I can't do it. So I remember one of the tests was talking about wormwood and sandalwood and the correlation between them. And I read the first paragraph, and then I was like, oh shit. Because there's 4 paragraphs, right? And then they ask you like 5 questions. And the questions are like, what was the author's intention? And then they give you like 5 answers. And I'm like,
oh my gosh, that's the worst.
This is not me. I can't do this. So I ended up scoring a 150. I'm almost, good? They don't break it down, but like I'm pretty sure I got all the games right because they make sense. It's just
the games are the hardest ones though to a lot of people.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah. But for me, dude, like freaking remember.
I think that's why you're more successful.
So this is funny about me, right? When I read the question, what was the author's intention? My initial reaction is, how the hell am I supposed to know?
Yeah, totally.
Me too.
Right?
Me too, for
because
sure.
Just because I read something doesn't mean that that's what they intended me to read. There's an editor. Yep. It's almost like I know too much to like
assume.
You like dumb it down and just answer the freaking question.
Totally.
Right? So anyways, I got a 150, which is like 50 percentile. It's like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? Because if you get 3 more questions right, you get a 160. Right, because if you get 3 more questions wrong, you're sitting at 140. That's right, because it's a true bell curve across the whole country. Blah 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 blah. I
had the ACT, and I had the most interesting ACT experience because I was going to the winter sports school at the time, and like the whole goal was the Olympics. I was on the whole Olympic track ski racing thing. Yeah. And I was out in Oceanside and got a super bad concussion. I was body surfing, hit my head on the sandbar, whatever. And it was right before I was about to take the ACT, and I didn't know where I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get a good score. Yeah. And there was no way I was taking that test. Like my short-term memory, I was having issues with that. I couldn't even balance on one foot. It was terrible. And they were expecting me to take this test. So I requested accommodations, and they gave me time and a half to go take the test. Yeah. So I sit down and I get like 25% of the way through the test, and I just said, screw it. I'm not finishing this. There's no way. And so I just got up and left. Never finished it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You never took it?
Never finished it.
So you got into the U without the ACT?
I transferred to the U.
Oh, okay.
I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Arizona.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because I got my private pilot's license in high school, and the plan was to go fly for Delta.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to do the whole Delta Propel thing where you start with SkyWest and they go to Delta. Yeah. And I just did not like it. And I realized like I miss being an entrepreneur and doing things like that. I'd grown up flipping cars kind of. There was a guy that owned a small jet brokerage in Park City, Greg Oswald, and got on the phone with him. I can't remember how I got connected with him, but I got on the phone with him and I was like, hey, I know a shit ton about airplanes because I nerd out about that more than anything else. I can look up and tell you what kind of airplane it is. Yeah. And I understand market analytics just from buying and selling cars. And he's like, hey, and was so fortunate enough to get that opportunity. And so I finished my instrument check ride at Embry-Riddle, hit the transfer portal, and got out of there. I packed everything in my 4Runner and left and started interning for Greg. And then I enrolled in the University of Utah because they wanted me to get a degree. Yeah. They didn't like the no degree full-time job that I proposed.
And by the way, Sam's unbelievably humble about his pilot experiences. Like when he was like 16, he was going up in Red Bull stunt planes pulling like 8 Gs, right? Like,
yeah. Were you really?
Yeah. So there's a guy that owns the Heber Airport, or owns the FBO to the Heber Airport, OK3 Air. It's a guy named Nadeem who I was so fortunate enough to meet when I was 15 the day I got my permit. Yeah, he was a Top Gun weapons instructor at Miramar. Wow. He was an F-18 Hornet pilot. He's one of the most badass figures on the planet. For sure. And he was like, hey, I got this extra 300L, which is a plane, and it's an old Red Bull stunt plane, kind of that, very stunt plane looking. Mm-hmm. And he said that, and I was like, brought my nerd brain out, and I was like, oh no way, the one that goes plus or minus 10 Gs and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, like we gotta go fly it. And so we ended up going to fly it, and I was, I think, 15 when I first flew that plane with him, and it was just an eye-opening experience. I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do.
That's wild.
Got to make it work somehow. Yeah, we still fly it today. I feel like we fly like every twice a year or something. We go up and mess around and pull some G's. The first time I flew it, I passed out though. Yeah. Because what happens is that you're in the plane and you start pulling the stick back, and the G-force pushes you to the bottom of the seat. Yeah. And what happens is the oxygen from your brain, with the G-force that counteracts it, it sinks down your body, and so the blood just rushes from your brain to your feet. Yeah. When that happens, the first thing that goes out is your sight. So you can't see anything, and then your hearing starts to go out, and you're on the mic, and I was like, hey, his call sign was Bill in the military, so I was like, hey, Bill, I'm going out, and I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't see anything, and the next thing I know, I wake up, and I'm like, where are we?
Oh my gosh, that's not scary. Yeah, I'm like sweating thinking about that, man. That's insane.
Yeah, it was scary, but
I've always watched that, you watch people like the G-head amuletors kind of doing this whole thing, like melting down, and I'm just like...
There's some crazy videos of Sam, which is like,
I'll show you a funny video.
It's so funny.
But the trick is to use it. They use a G-suit in intense G-forces, which basically just inflates, and so it sucks your muscles in, so the blood can't rush down as fast. But there's tricks. You kind of just flex your whole body and try to stop the blood from rushing to your feet. But it is
practice.
Scary. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. One or two more things on the ACT stuff. One, like, because of some like gifted and talented program I was part of, they made us take it for the first time when we were in 8th grade, which is like pretty early. And so I got like the idea of like, what it is very early, which helped me strategize.
But there's gifted and talented.
Thank you. What can I say?
But what was your first ACT score? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was 25. But like the thing is, I'm genuinely like not that good of a test taker, and I was like super upset about that score, in fact. But the reason I brought it back up was because Sam said something about accommodations, and like whoever's watching this, I would genuinely recommend like taking advantage of these snowflake administrators that allow like seriously, like that is my biggest regret of school. Like I'm
scared to take this test. They're like, oh, you have all day.
I literally like so many of my friends at Penn did this too, and like it is an unbelievably unfair advantage that everyone should take advantage of, because the bar to get test accommodations is unbelievably low.
So and ADHD, right?
Yeah, literally anything. You can just like go and like, say like whatever. But and the benefit you get from it is the most unfair advantage you could possibly imagine. You get a private room for a test, so you could bring your computer, your phone, ChatGPT, whatever. You get time and a half on any test.
No test taking advice to be taken.
No, I mean it's it's actually crazy. Yeah, you get the private room alone. Like you can just get a better score than anyone else. And like for me, I just like I don't buy into the matrix. Like I just got my first C. I've had like very good grades. Like I got A+ in Mandarin, Arabic, whatever. But this freaking psychology class, I had to take it for a requirement, and it was about mental health, which is something I'm really interested in, and that ties back to something in Park City about substances that I'll go into in a bit. But this class, like the content was okay. It seemed kind of outdated, honestly, and the whole setup of it just sucked. You just feel like a number, right? Because like a lot of the Wharton classes are very intimate, like 10 to 30 people, specific and individualized instruction. And then the psychology class, like big lecture room, so boring, people sleeping, people playing computer games, watching movies, like it just sucks. And
but they're paying $80,000 to be there.
Yeah, I'm like this is awful. And so I barely do any work for it. I barely go to class, and like the professor hates me, and like totally is like she's like threatening to make it so I don't graduate type thing. And I'm like, come on, like this is ridiculous. Like I've worked in mental health for 10 years. One of our portfolio companies is a mental health and wellness app. Like we care a lot about this stuff, and I do too. And like she just didn't care. She's like, no, you didn't come to class. Like, you didn't take, you didn't do the extra credit. I did an extra credit paper. She gave me a 0 on it. I paid someone to do it. So like kind of on me, but I lost $150 and they got a 0 on it. So I'm pissed about that. But
so that's a real thing. There's guys that'll just do papers for you and stuff.
I have to say, I paid someone for the first time in my life to do an exam for me this past year. I mean, we just got so busy with everything, and I had a really hard time justifying sitting down and studying for this test that was never going to help me in my life, or have someone help me with it. And
huge
I hope I'm not incriminating myself.
Yeah, no,
I didn't pay my bottom line. I took him out to lunch in the McLaren. It was, it's fun. But
there you go.
it took him like 5 minutes to take the test. And it's like, for me, it would have taken me, 10 hours to study and a lot.
I wonder if you can get in trouble for that stuff. I hope not. But like one of our LPs, this guy's hilarious. He sold 2 companies. One of which he started when he was in college. You'll love this story.
To be unnamed though, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Unnamed, tall Pakistani beauty. But we love you, Zayd. But anyway, this is actually this is what inspired me and Sam to do this, because it's hilarious. He hired a stunt double.
Oh, really? For college?
Literally for all of college. So like he was working on his first startup that he sold, and he paid someone to go to class for him, to do his homework, to take his tests, and to talk to his professors to build up good credibility.
And this guy's so smart. It's not like he couldn't do the school. It's just he was making so much damn money doing something else. He was like, I'm going to take full advantage of this. Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually anti-college a little bit. Right?
Me too.
Right.
It's just like it's like a matrix.
I can't believe you're hearing that coming from a Wharton School of Business graduate. But yeah,
I'm not surprised at all.
There's exceptions.
The second you do a valuation on it, you're like, oh shit.
I'm pro education and I'm pro trade schools, but I'm not necessarily pro college. I think more than 80% of college students in America, especially, don't really love what they're studying, don't really know what the career path for what they're studying looks like, and don't really like have a fire about it. Like they're genuinely just learning to like, go through the motions, kind of like a lot of people with religion. Like they're not learning out of interest, which I think is like something that's really lost in our society. And like when I was on the gap years, and even right now, the fact that I can just pick up one of my books and read it out of pure interest and curiosity, that's like what lights up the soul and gets people excited. Like that's the stuff we need more of, versus like big lecture rooms with slides and regurgitating information for a Scantron test. Like that is soul sucking.
Well, activity. I'll tell you why they're doing it. They're going into school they're buying themselves time. It's a 4-year gap in your life where you can get a soft introduction. And I'm not anti-school. I'm actually pro-school in some aspects, but it's a soft introduction to real life. Yeah. So they're going into it. They're 18, 19. They're not ready for the real world yet, essentially. And so they're going into it with this. I'm going to take 4 years to figure out my life. It's the first time I'm going to be moving out of the house. I want to learn how to do my own dishes and do my own laundry and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But I think that's why a lot of people do it. Is because, quite frankly, with student loans and
first time drinking a beer.
Yeah, exactly. And people's parents will help them out.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah. And for me, I'm just like, I want like a general business degree, right? I don't care if it's from Harvard, right? Most of these guys, it's like, value this business for me. And they're like, huh? It's like, what did you learn? You know what I mean?
I haven't learned much in school.
No, dude. So to kind of go on to this. So when I actually got into law school. I got into Texas Tech.
No way.
That's where I was going to go. And my dad asked me to forego doing that and help him run the family business for a couple of years.
Really?
Wow.
Right? And so my response to that was, I will do that under these conditions, right? And I gave him like 7 or 8 things, right? Fire a couple people I don't like in here. Some family.
What was the business?
It's ADP Lemco. It's the one. It's my athletic equipment company.
Very
so
cool.
you haven't been to my office yet, have you?
No, but we got to check that out.
Yeah, we'll come check it out. Yeah. And so, but that was the family business at the time, right? I'd grown up working there since I was 8, right?
No way.
And so I said to him, I go, okay, so if we're going to do this, I get to do entrepreneurial things on the side. As long as my work is done, right? I get to do whatever I want, basically. And he's like, fair. And I said, and you're going to pay for me to get an executive MBA. So I'll work for you for 5 years and I'm going to apply. Because, you got to be out basically 7 years is kind of like the average for an EMBA, but they'll let you in around 5, right? So, and I'm like, okay, now I got to do the, what's the test for that? It's not the MCAT.
MCAT.
No, that's the medical one.
It's isn't the LSAT?
Is it GMAT?
Oh, it is the GMAT. Yeah.
GMAT, yeah, it's GMAT, yeah.
So many of them.
Whatever so I was like, okay, I got to take this stupid ass test.
More matrix coded Scantron.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why am I taking this test? Just let me in.
Gosh.
So then but like 4 or 5 years go by, right? And quite frankly, we almost went bankrupt. Like, it was wild.
No way.
Right? He kind of threw me the keys a little bit and kind of did his own thing. And I was kind of like.
So at this point, you were probably what, like 25?
26.
26, yeah.
26 years old, yeah.
Jeez. That's pretty cool.
Mostly because I had 2 years on a mission.
Yeah. Exactly.
Are you glad?
So yeah, I graduated college in 2007. I was 26. And by July, I was named president of the company.
No
so
way.
That's why my name is President McCormack on my Instagram. That's
And right behind you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Podcasting, yeah.
It's rad.
And so, but I started talking to all these guys that were getting MBAs that were my friends, right? And I knew more than them.
Yep.
You know, and I did a lot of managerial accounting in college, right? Those classes I was taking before I swapped to paralegal studies. And so I understood accounting okay, but then we hired a consultant the second year from this consulting firm, and dude, he taught me all sorts of stuff. I learned Excel really well, you know, building models in there and stuff like that. Not enough to teach it, but like I'm good, you know, I can figure it out. And the more I met MBA guys, dude, I'm just like, I know more than you.
Yep.
And I'm like, what was your favorite class? And they'll be like, well, it was really fun taking this 2-week trip at the end of it, you know, like every freaking time. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Okay.
Wharton's like notoriously bad for that. I mean, I have a story from freshman year when I took my first MBA class as a freshman undergrad, because that's like why I went to Wharton, right? It's like you get MBA access as an undergrad, and that's pretty rare. Like there's no really other program like that, even Harvard, Stanford. And so my first year I took real estate law, David Libor, great guy, great professor. And the tests were both written, actually mostly written, which I thought was cool. Because I was involved with like the real estate club and the broader community, the foundation there, I got to see the grade distributions at the end and take a guess on what the average MBA score was and the average undergrad score.
Oh, I would hope it's higher. Do they bell curve it, or is it just straight up?
They did a raw score and then they curve, because the MBAs you can't get lower than a B.
Really?
Only A's and B's are given out in MBA programs, in the top programs.
Really? So you can't fail out of them?
Can't fail. You can literally not fail. Like I just TA'd an MBA class, and we had people that would have gotten like under a 20%, but they got a B. B minus, and they were pissed. And it's like, you didn't do anything.
You don't know.
Well, that goes back to it's applied knowledge. It's like the reason why you know more than those guys is because you're taking the knowledge that you've learned and you're just simply applying it.
Yeah.
Like I have so many buddies in school who are extremely dialed, like Carson, Noah, Luke, all those kids are dialed. It's because they take the knowledge that they've learned, but the difference between them and everyone else is they choose to apply it, right? They're actually doing things with it, which makes them learn it more.
Well, and one funny thing to me, right? So guys, they would also tell me about the culture that they learned, like business culture with other countries. And I'm like, okay, like what?
And
well, over in China, they like to bow to you. I'm like, dude, this seems like stuff you could put on a freaking flip card and figure it out in 5 seconds before your plane lands.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
It's a ChatGPT or Google search before, like as you're taxiing
or
to your
YouTube
gate.
video, anything.
How to greet Chinese businessman.
Yeah, and the reality of it is, if I take my American dollars to any mother freaking country on this planet and I want to buy something, it will happen.
Yep.
Totally. Yep.
Right? I don't need to know what to wear to a meeting in Uganda.
Yep.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's just, I was always like looking at these guys, I'm like, and you have 2 full classes on this? Like, wild.
I would say that part for an international school like mine was actually valuable, but not because of like the bowing thing, but like actually like going on trips with people from different countries and like frankly getting screwed over from them, and like and like my buddy, one of my great mentors, Paul Pilzer, went to Penn, very big. He was the youngest MBA at 20 ever, which is really cool.
Oh, cool.
He's incredible, and you know he would always write in his books and talk to me about how he got screwed over by Russians, and I was like, hey, come on, like it can't be that bad. And so I took a semester of Russian, very intense, like very awful professor that was just so mean, like everyone hated her. There's only 5 of us in this class. I heard about
this one a lot.
Yeah, there's only 5 of us in this class. It was me and my good friend Gregoria, this freshman kid, this 80-year-old woman named Jeanette, who we all became very close with. She's sweet. Amazing. She reminds me of my grandma. And then the 5th person was a CIA agent. He couldn't say that, but he's like, yeah, I'm a 3-letter organization. And he was like going back and forth between Russia all the time.
What was his name?
I can't say. Yeah. Wait, the CIA guy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can't say.
Okay, we'll talk about it after.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. I can say his first name, Brandy.
Oh, okay, no. Yeah. So the guy I know is named Chris. He's my cousin.
Oh, no way. That would be funny.
So funny.
Yeah. No, if you would have said his name, I would have like blown my mind.
That would be wild. Yeah.
So my cousin, he's fun. He's
You're gonna tell us more about your cousin Chris.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. So he hasn't actually admitted to what he does. That's why it's fun, right?
No
so
way.
like I don't know, but so he grew up in Texas because my uncle worked for Coke, right? Like the Koch brothers, right? That company. And he's a chemical engineer, and so his son, he's adopted. He married my aunt when he was like 2 years old, right? So he adopted him, and then they had 4 kids together, right? And so now they're divorced, and so my uncle doesn't talk to him all that much because it's kind of a strained relationship and weird. Right. Also, details that don't matter to my story. But so my cousin lives in New York, and he serves at these high-end restaurants, right? But he also got a poli-sci degree with might be a history degree, and he learned Russian at BYU, right? So he was always kind of obsessed with Russia growing up, right? I always wanted to learn the language, and so it didn't seem
perfect CIA
it doesn't
recruit.
even seem odd, but it's just like he just did it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but he lives in Russia for 6 months out of the year, and then he comes back to New York, and he kind of does whatever the hell he wants. Right. So it's not like, and so I've seen him in New York twice when I've gone back there, and I'm like, you like, what do you actually do in Russia when you go over there? Right. Like, because he doesn't have a girlfriend here or there. You know what I mean? And he's my age, so he's 42 now. And he always wanted to be an ambassador. That's like his main goal. He wants to be the ambassador to Russia. Right. Interesting. Well, the best way to do that is go be a CIA agent over there for 25 years, and then they make you the ambassador. Right. So he's pretty much on that path. And I actually like him a lot, but I haven't talked to him in 5 years. He just goes dark.
Wow. That's crazy.
I could text and be like, "Happy birthday, bro," and I'll hear from him 3 years later.
Thanks.
Yeah, he doesn't even say that. I'll just like, you there? Like, is this Crystal?
That's totally how that Brandy guy was. Like, would never really talk about, he wouldn't admit it, wouldn't say it, but like we all knew, and he was always there. And it's funny you bring up that Chris went to BYU, because BYU, like per capita, I think is the largest recruiter, or like per percentage of the students based. It's the largest recruiter of FBI and CIA.
Well, you know why?
Oh, I believe that.
Because they take these guys and they teach them languages like instantly.
Yeah, and they're straight edge. A lot of them went on missions and have another language already. Haven't drank, haven't smoked.
Yeah, they don't drink. Yeah. There's a lot of, to be a good CIA agent, like you can't ever compromise yourself, right?
Totally.
So like when you don't ever compromise yourself for religious reasons, it's like, makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you seen, there's this ex-CIA agent, Andrew Bumaswamy, probably butchering his last name, but these podcasts, I cannot believe they're not getting taken down. Like, he is saying some
Oh, no, I think I've seen that. I've seen clips
hair.
of that dude, yeah.
Wow. I mean, bang for buck, like him, Hermosi, maybe the All In podcast, I just like learn so much. It's insane. Like per minute of listening to that, I just keep like doing a double take. I'm like, there's no way he just said that. Like, that cannot be real.
Have you heard the dark web guy talking on podcasts? He's a little skinny guy, and he talks about like grabbing like little things and turning them into microphones. And
no way.
I'll send you some clips, because I never remember his name. They just kind of, as I'm using the bathroom and going through TikTok, I see him. But dude, the stuff he says about the dark web and like how it's all interconnected through the NSA, and dude, it's wild.
There's conspiracies that the NSA started Bitcoin. I don't know a lot about that, but there's some like pretty compelling evidence. So I don't know.
I got down a rabbit hole one time on Bitcoin about how Putin is the one that created it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it
doesn't feel right.
There's so many conspiracies about.
Here's some hot take. I actually don't think Putin's that bad of a guy.
I don't either. Dude,
believe it.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to get canceled here, but like, let's be real. The U.S. completely instigated the Ukrainian conflict. There's no questions about that whatsoever.
To me, it's just payoff money. It's 40 years of doing business through Ukraine, and
well,
they're finally getting paid.
Did you see Biden called Zelensky Putin yesterday?
That was crazy.
I was
and then
at the gym
Kamala.
for that.
That's bad.
I mean, that's bad, but what's worse is the day before the war really started, Putin said the only thing that would instigate an invasion is the invitation of Ukraine to NATO. So what does the U.S. Secretary of State do?
Invite them to NATO?
Invite Ukraine to NATO, prompting the aggregation.
Yeah.
The aggression. There's literally no questions asked. Like, it's like simple. Yeah.
Did you watch the Putin thing was it Piers Morgan that just?
Yeah. It was.
Oh, no. It was Tucker.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker.
I met Piers Morgan. I was in a photo shoot with him.
Oh, really?
Which is so funny. Yeah, we dressed up as
Was that the Yarrow?
Yeah,
No
David Yarrow.
way.
That was
I like him. I think he's cool.
him. Yeah.
That's funny.
I like Tucker Carlson as well. And I mean, that Putin interview was amazing. Like, he laid it all out very thoughtfully, and I thought he was very professional, respectful. And the tough thing for me is, like, I think, Ukraine deserves freedom. I think, like, they're caught in the, middle of a small American elitist family's personal interests. And if you look at it, there's about 20 different congressional articles about the Biden family's investments in Ukraine. If you want to go really deep, some of them are adrenochrome labs.
The drug thing?
Yeah, which is really gnarly. And there's a lot of other ones, and, Hunter's involved with it, and definitely don't want to be came after here because, like, I respect the Biden family a lot, but the fact that they have so many personal investments in Ukraine and now and Zelensky was on a Netflix show about running Ukraine. Like this is literally like a pawn of the US, you know, like just kind of the people running the country right now is like using Ukraine as a pawn, and a bunch of innocent lives are being lost. So I'm very passionate about this. We actually helped one of my buddies who was in my fraternity. He's Ukrainian. We helped him get a visa so he doesn't have to go fight in the war.
No way.
Yeah. And so like he's an example of like just this awesome guy who's caught in this conflict that has nothing really to do with the actual issue that people think is at hand, and way more to do with personal issues from like, you know, the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Do better. Yeah.
No, I think the United States has massively screwed up world history by not aligning with Russia at some point.
Go deeper on that.
Meaning there's plenty of opportunity over there. So we Americans have done this weird thing, and it's probably the British as well, right?
Yeah.
Like watch James Bond. It's always the evil Russians, We got 40 years of that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's always this. And like they make a good character, right? Don't get me wrong, right? The Russians in like the Bourne Identity, right? They make a good bad guy, right? Because the language is a little rough, and they're kind of like vodka drinking, like, you know, and people don't know shit about Russia. So you can show pretty much any stage, and it's like, oh, this is like some dark Russian stuff, you know, where it's like, the more you travel around this world, you know, I don't know how much traveling you guys have done, right? But it's like, we're all the same. We're just different colors, pretty much, right? Like,
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so I don't see people in Russia as this evil, you know, sickle that's just like trying to like take over the world, you know?
Could not agree more. Putin even said that in that interview with Tucker, and he was like, I've tried with every president to do a unified military, like, safety surveillance, like what was it, satellite?
Share intelligence type stuff.
Share intelligence, share military resources, like unite against China perhaps in like a, you know, non-conflict way. So I agree, and I think like it goes to a deeper point of like the bureaucracy and why so many people like Trump is because, you know, Trump is and Putin like call out the fact that it's not really the president running the show, it's all the people in his administration and who are in charge of the three-letter organizations who have been there for 5 decades and are just like perpetuating the corruption. And it's really sad to see, especially like the Israel and Gaza thing. So what you just said about all of us being equal, I could not resonate more with. And just like I mentioned this briefly, but at Penn I did 2 years of Mandarin, intense as shit, 4 days a week, like homework every day. Like that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I did it to prove to myself, if I learn Mandarin, Chinese, I can learn anything. I learned like I knew 500 characters at some point, whatever. Next, when I got back from the gap years, a little turned off by Corona, you know, just like I wanted a minor in Chinese maybe, but then I did Russian because I was interested in, you know, kind of the conflict at hand, what's going on. And then I did French, and then I did Arabic. Yeah. And I did Arabic at the same time as I did a Hebrew literature class with a professor, Nilly Gold, who's an amazing person. That this lady has a crazy story, but like she like smuggled books through it, you know, like that were being burned. Like literally she smuggled books back to the US and like knows all these Jewish authors who wrote about the Holocaust and like heavy stuff. And so I'm in a class with all Jewish kids. I'm not Jewish. I mean, our family's Jewish. I've been to temple a couple times, a couple of bar mitzvahs, but not intensely Jewish like a lot of these kids. Yeah. And it's like room full of Jewish people. And then in my Arabic class, and I went from the Hebrew literature class to my Arabic class. And once again, these Penn language classes are very intense, like unbelievable. And both of these professors of both of these classes are like the figurehead of the conflict at Penn. And Penn was like kind of one of the biggest like spotlighted campuses throughout the conflict. And so I was like going from one class and all my Jewish friends are crying and like bawling and like one of their sisters in Jerusalem and like it's a big deal. And I'm going to the Arabic class and all of them are crying and like their families are in Gaza getting decimated. And like, look, I definitely empathize for the Israeli state and especially like the hostages. It's terrible, but I don't empathize for bombing civilians at all, even if there's camps above or like, you know, tunnels underneath churches and schools. Like you should not be killing civilians. I saw it the other day. There's 180,000 dead Palestinians. That is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. For 40 hostages, I'm sorry, those numbers are just completely disproportionate. And same thing as Ukraine. It's like we are killing innocent lives here for money and for power and for personal interests. And so like in, you know, Israel and Gaza, people think this is about, you know, the hostages or religion, and it is not. It's about access to the canal, because that canal saves, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars by not having to go around Africa. Yeah. So in the 40s, they proposed a plan for a new canal through where kind of Gaza is from Israel. And, you know, they've also proposed like a Disneyland in Israel, all this stuff. But like, it's crazy. Like, we really don't need to kill people to do these things. And, you know, I bet if you employed those people, they'd help with the canal and share the economics, you know, and then you build a bigger pie. Yeah. And it's sad that we resort to conflict because of the kind of, like you said, the history that America's perpetuated through the military industrial complex.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry. Very passionate about this.
No. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm really impressed, you know, because, you know, people listen to this podcast. I mean, you're 23, right? And you're 21?
24. 22. Yeah.
22, yeah. Oh, that was close.
Very, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're young, right? Mm-hmm. My generation looks at your generation like a bunch of morons generally, right? You
totally.
know? And it's not that you're not it's almost like we're annoyed because you guys are wildly capable, right? You also grew up in a world where, like, I grew up in the analog world that moved to digital, right? Like, you guys grew up in a purely digital world where information was so easily accessible to you, right? And so, you know, as we look down, we're kind of like, why are you so freaking entitled? And I'm obviously not talking about you guys. I'm talking about like the whole thing.
No, totally.
And I really like the fact that you guys understand what's actually going on in the world. You know, because there's, even in America, right? Like, one of the things I get so annoyed with is people like Trump or Biden. And I'm like, they're both horrible choices, right? But the only thing that actually, that's not true. Trump is the clear choice. It's very easy, right? It's protect the border, protect the economy, and stay the hell out of my life. That is what the government should do, right? But our government has been twisted so up in welfare state and this, that, and special interest this, and it's insane. They can't pass a bill that's not 75 pages. You know what I mean? Like, have you guys ever written a law? Have you ever taken a law class?
I just finished business law, and it's so interesting. We read a couple of the documents.
Yeah.
It's unnecessarily complicated and excessive and long.
If you can't write a law in 2 pages, I'm sorry, right?
Totally.
Write 100 different laws. Don't slap 2,000 things into one law. You know what I mean? It's like,
totally.
Like, they might pass a law about abortion somewhere, right? And they'll write in $80 million for a freaking museum in Washington State. It's like, what?
For sure.
You know, Obamacare was 2,500 pages.
That's why I wanted to go into politics originally, and I'm grateful that my dad talked me out of it, but also my own experiences talked me out of it. Like, my freshman year at Penn, I went to several congressional hearings. Penn's very connected politically and in the business world, and so I went to Congress and sat in on like an issue about substance abuse and mental health and the opioid epidemic. Room full of absolute bozos. I'm sorry. Like, these guys are just talking their butts off with no substance whatsoever, and they're just arguing with each other. And it's like, you can talk in circles all day, and that's what they do, and nothing gets done. And that's why we are in the situation we're in, with more people dying now from COVID and opiates than 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, more people, and Trump talked about this in the in his interview, which was right before the debate on the All In podcast, but like, there's been an increase in corona deaths since corona actually came about. And the opiate thing is like getting a lot worse too, and very few people are talking about this. And the opiate thing ties into why I'm super passionate about mental health, is because when Sam and I were growing up, our youngest brother Josh, he was 13, and 2 of his buddies that had like just come over to our house a week before freaking overdosed on fentanyl and died at age 13. Like, rocked our community. And then less than a month later, Josh finds a dead body like 100 yards from where he sleeps at night. Ex-policeman shot himself. And that just like...
Do they know why?
I think his wife divorced him, like some dark stuff for sure.
Okay, yeah.
But like, it just made me realize like everyone is dealing with something. Like 13-year-old kids using fentanyl to 50-year-old policemen shooting themselves in Park City, Utah. Like, people think it's all roses and butterflies up in this like billionaire ski community, which it's gorgeous, it's awesome, but like, it doesn't matter where you are. We all deal with stuff, and that made me just super passionate to like join the board of this like mental health nonprofit, start doing like unified substance abuse, getting involved with like overdose treatment. That was like some of the gnarliest stuff I've ever seen, like doing naloxone for like overdosing addicts. Like, that is like as gnarly as it gets. And it's just like insane how people think like, oh, this person has that money or this house, so they never deal with depression or anxiety or any issues. And it's like, no.
That's my least favorite thing that people talk about, is that money solves issues. It's like, everyone has issues. You got money.
Everyone has issues.
More money, more problems. It's so simple.
Yeah.
But mental health facilities and drug rehab centers, very bullish. Very bullish. Because I think, to Eli's point, like, as we grow and as we see more opioid crisis, there's going to be more mental health facilities, drug rehab centers, and old folks homes. And I think those three.
Well, and to your point too, right? Like your generation, you know, I'd say 15 to 30, basically, right? In that realm, right? Their anxiety levels are off the chart.
Totally.
Off the chart. Like I was watching a YouTube video on this, and the guy was talking about it, and he was just like, he goes, it's like a 500% increase on anxiety medication, right? And I don't know the stats. It's like 1 in 2. It's like something crazy like that. Like 1 in 2 high school kids are on anti-anxiety medication.
I think part of it's too because you can go on your phone and you can check Instagram or TikTok, like you were saying. You can scroll and you can see how everybody's doing better than you and different than you and making you feel like what you're doing isn't viable.
Right.
And I deal with it too. Like I'm completely guilty of. I'm like, this guy's doing this. Like, what am I doing wrong? You know what I mean? And I'm sure everyone deals with that. And I think that's why is because when you were growing up, you couldn't go on. And like when Noah was growing up, like he can't go on and see, oh, all your friends are doing this tonight and you didn't get invited, or this person's doing this and you're not because you're held back because you're in college or you're doing this. It's like, it's terrible.
The human brain is programmed to compare. And that's why, like, you know, if you're born into money, you're oftentimes like not that happy because it's just everything you're used to. Whereas like if you go from a little bit of money to a lot of money, you're comparing it, so the comparison is very large, so your happiness is a lot larger.
Yeah, I can see that.
And to what Sam said, Paul Pilzer actually, like that's how I met him. We were doing mental health work. Like the guy, he worked in the Reagan administration, has 10 New York Times best-selling books, one of the biggest, coolest houses in Park City, like absolute legend. He actually, his house, his house is responsible for the Wi-Fi for Main Street, Park City.
Oh, really?
So he's had this deal with Comcast for like 40 years where Comcast beams up service to Crescent Chairlift at PCMR. Crescent beams it to his house, which beams it to Main Street. And he gets like $30 a month. He's like, today this would be worth $3,000, but he's like,
oh, that's so cool.
He's hilarious.
So
but this is like a guy, perfect example. Love him, respect him so much, and love his family. But like 2 of his kids have made gender transitions or like are in process, or we don't know, but that's really difficult. And like same with a couple other people that are unbelievably successful, well respected, that we know like are dealing with gnarly mental health or kind of like societal questioning of everything. And like people start asking like, why is this happening? And it's like, look at the ingredients on baby formula. Like there's like 16 heavy metals in baby formula.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. And like these drinks too, like Prime Energy and you know whatever else, like the food we're eating, it's like literally poisonous. And like people are like, why are we fat, why are we depressed? And it's like, because your body is a vehicle and you're fueling it with poop.
That's why you go to Europe and you don't work out for 2 weeks and you still look great, and it's because their food is so just clean.
Oh yeah. No, I just read a stat that 60% of the United States is obese. Not
you know
heavy,
why?
Not thick.
I'll tell
like
you why.
Obese.
It's vegetable oil.
Yeah.
Oh, you think so?
100%.
7 year, yeah.
100%. It's vegetable oil. And vegetable oil was invented in 1970. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1970 or so. Originally used as motor oil. They were using it to lubricate cars. And then they started putting it in food because you can cook it to a high temperature.
Yeah.
This shit is poison. It's literally terrible. It goes in your gut and it just creates fat.
I have a lot of people that are wildly anti-seed oil.
Totally.
Like crazy. And I'm like, well, you know. But the funny thing in my world, right? We use avocado oil and we just use it forever. My wife is very, very fit. When you guys meet her, you'll be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Yeah. But we realized years ago, probably when we were first married, it's like, we need to just eat real food. Like it doesn't even matter what you're eating per se.
It's so true.
Just some fruit, some meat, some nuts.
Yep. That's where money really matters, in my opinion, is like food, because access to good quality food is monetarily very difficult. And if you like compare like McDonald's or 7-Eleven, like those are like, you know, the cheapest places, easiest
even
to
though
get,
they're not cheap anymore.
Most convenient. Yeah, and they're getting more expensive. Like groceries have risen 30% in the last year type thing, like insane. And the CPI number that the government reports is basically handpicked for whatever the Fed wants it to be. Let's be real. Like the CPI basket for rent, they talk to 200 property management companies. We all of a sudden, like in the last like 15 years, we have data from like 200,000 property management companies that the government can totally get, but instead they choose to handpick 200 so they can control the public's perception of the CPI so that the Fed can work with them to set expectations and manage market psychology. It's a whole thing. Very crazy. But the seed oil thing really bugs me as well, Sam, because it's like the people don't have any other choice. Like the everyday American or like a minimum wage American doesn't have the option to get like grass-fed steak or portobello mushrooms or whatever like good healthy food you need to like perpetuate goodness in your life. And that's why I do think like some people are inherently at a disadvantage, not only because of the money but the education, like learning about this stuff. And then you talk about cycles and like perpetuating mental patterns. Like social media is a perfect reflection of that. Like it just perpetuates whatever you want to see, whatever you think the world should be. And so it creates these like really bad loops that leads to 60% obesity. That's nuts.
It's like irreversible.
There's a 50 ingredient rule that I heard some guy say, and I don't remember his name, otherwise I'd give him credit. But he said if you can stay under 50 ingredients every day, like you're golden. And like looking here at this, maybe this is good ingredients, maybe it's bad, but there's 20 in here.
Right. So now you only got 30 left.
Even Trader Joe's, it's like I love Trader Joe's. You go to Trader Joe's and you expect to get the best, good healthy food, and you look at the ingredients and some of the stuff, and it's like all these gums and fillers and vegetable oil, canola oil, and it's like, dude, this is 80 ingredients for a piece of chicken or orange chicken. It's like,
yeah.
Well, I remember, so I was talking to some friends one time and we were talking about chicken nuggets at McDonald's, right? Yeah. We were like, are they healthy or are they not healthy? We're joking around about it. And one of my friends looked it up and I think it was either 26 or 36 ingredients, right? When you first hear that, you're like, oh, okay. And then you're like, well, hold on, let me break this freaking down. Chicken, salt, pepper, batter, right? It was basically oil, eggs, flour. Should be. Right?
Yeah.
Paprika, maybe throw a couple more spices in there. It's like, okay, I'm at 9 or 10. What are the other 20? You know what I mean? It's like crazy. And if it's 36, there's another freaking 26.
And the dark like history that I've learned about is that there's a petrol-based like medical system that's been set up for over a century to put like these kind of oils that stay in your body for 70 years, I think is like the lifetime on canola oil or something in your body, 70 years. And
do you believe it's strategic money grab?
I do believe there's a correlation between the food industry, like Rockefeller Tyson family that runs basically all of pharma and all of food. And I think the pharma and food companies do work together to perpetuate capitalism.
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
I do too. I think
why wouldn't they?
I think
it's breaking though. It's breaking because of people like us and a lot of awesome people from Utah and Idaho.
There are good things about social media, and one of them is the fact that stuff like this is now being brought to a huge, wide generation because of social media. You see one video that gets 1 million views about talking about this kind of stuff, and all of a sudden there's 30, 50, 100 people. Yeah,
you got guys like Andrew Huberman, right? They're really pushing this stuff. Gary Brecka, even though give him like 50-50 credit and stuff. He's a little wild.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. Food's insane. So I try and buy all my meat from my friend's dairy.
Oh, no way. That's cool.
Up in Washington. Wow. Right. So once I realized that was a viable option, I was like, oh, freak, I'm not going to buy it from anywhere else. And it's literally like, it's the best. In fact, you guys are like this. He created a software. Like if you see this dairy, I think it's the biggest dairy in the West.
No way.
It's huge. It's like a whole valley.
That's cool.
Right? So
that's really cool.
And anyway, so I showed up to see it one time, right? Because it's like dead center Washington State. So I got to kind of travel. I was in Seattle, so I went 2 hours over to see it. And I'm like, dude, Austin, this is insane. He was actually on my podcast if you want to listen to him. But so, I mean, they create their own food there, right? And like they slaughter like 7,000 cows a week just for Tyson and their slaughterhouse. Like it's huge.
Have you seen this stuff about like raw dairy products being seized by the federal government across Texas? And the videos get taken down pretty fast, but I've seen probably 10. And like I've done a bit of research to prove they're not fake. And it's shocking. Like the fact that, the federal government is scared of people getting access to raw dairy in the form of milk or eggs or... Yeah, it's really, really weird. And our youngest brother, Josh, is super into this stuff. Like he's the biggest health freak I've ever met.
I'll have to ask Austin. I'll see what he says about that because he'll know. Yeah. He's livid at Bill Gates. Bill Gates is going through Washington State and buying up all sorts of agricultural land. It's like Monsanto, right? Monsanto basically took their seeds that they patented and they threw them all over the place for other... they put them in other people's fields, right? And then they go over there and they sue them, and then they pull some seeds out of there, and they have a genetic code in there. So they say, yeah, see, you stole our seeds. And these farmers are like, I have been repurposing my own seeds my whole life, and it's because they spread them in there. And then they win the lawsuit, and then they take the farm. Oh, there's documentaries on that, dude. It's freaking crazy.
No way.
Crazy.
That's terrible.
What do you think we can do about this? Like, kind of all these problems.
Make as much money as you can, enjoy your life, and die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, I'm a mitigating risk kind of guy, and the more I think about this, I'm just like, you have to have the right political players in place, and in our country, you'd have to have a couple hundred.
It's going to take decades. It's going to take.
It'll never happen. Our country will crash before it'll happen.
You think?
We're going to destroy our economy.
I have to agree. I mean, Ray Dalio's Principles for a Changing World Order. Really, I listened to the audiobook like 2 Novembers ago. I think a month after it came out. just so depressing, like talking about how, you know, in the Roman Empire you have like people starting to question their sexuality and their gender and, you know, get fat and bred in circuses, like, you know, big, like Taylor Swift going to an NFL game. Like, that can't be because the NFL ratings were dropping so much. Like, it can't be, right? Yeah. And like, I don't know, I'm really scared for the country as well. Like, that's why I do what I do. And like Sam and I are so passionate about like investing in things that are going to make the world a better place and leave it better than we found it. Because there's this quote, and it's like, we only are able to sit in shade because a couple men, you know, wanted to plant seeds for us years ago. And that's like what I really like, that's what drives me, because like we've been going in the wrong direction for so long, like taking seeds, burning them, burning raw milk, like for so long that like now it's like mandatory for us to step in and do something, like inspired by stuff like you.
If I had a crystal ball, I would assume that we'll have another civil war, and that civil war will either break the country or fix the country. And it's just whoever wins.
It's funny you say that, because literally yesterday when the whole Biden thing, calling Kamala, you know, Trump, and
that was Vice President Trump,
so silly. And my friends and I were watching that. I'm like, he's gonna die on camera in front of everyone, like have a heart attack or something, and then we're just gonna have a civil war, like right then and there. Like, I don't know.
I'm no expert in war, but it feels like it's brewing.
I mean, did you see Leave the World Behind?
That was weird. I bought an AR-15 after that movie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm dead serious.
No, this is.
I've already got a couple.
I mean, we're deep down here, but like this is a real thing. It's like a Netflix documentary, or not documentary, like a fictional thing. Produced,
but the Obamas produced it.
Produced by the Obamas.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
A
little bit interesting, and I mean, throughout the movie, this is crazy. There's like talk about subconscious like frequencies, sound waves. There's frequencies designed to damage your DNA and create anxiety and fear throughout the movie, which is like common for horror movies and, you know, thrillers, whatever. But this one is literally about a civil war in America.
It's a cyber attack, right?
It's like an EMP, like you know, like all the service goes out, so boats start crashing in, and the Teslas all crash into each other, the roads are crammed, and everything starts going to crap because no one trusts each other. And there's this like moment in the movie where this guy's like, you think there's some evil cabal controlling, you know, everybody, but in reality, it's all just every man for himself. And as awesome as that is to think about, you have to wonder, the former president that produced this, who, you know, obviously has the ear of the current president, probably, you know, I don't know, maybe that is his real experience and he's trying to help people, but it's hard to imagine that it's not the opposite of that.
My opinion on everyone that's in politics, I don't give a crap if you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, right? The second you go back to Washington, you're all the same corrupt assholes. Totally. Like all of them, right? Yeah. I get really annoyed when I watch like those Senate hearings and committee hearings and all that stuff where they bring someone and yell at them. And it's like these gotcha moments after gotcha moments. And then it's like, and the second that's over, it's like, what happened? Yes, this person just perjured the hell out of themselves all over the place. You do nothing. There's no consequence to it, you know? And like, you can kind of fall for it, right? Like with Tom Holman, right? Remember him? He's the Homeland Security guy that's running the border. Well, they pull him up there, dude. He's lighting them up left and right, dude. AOC's asking just this. What it was really doing is exposing senators, and it was just showing how they don't have a clue.
Totally.
Right? They have no. And the worst one ever, right? The worst one ever was Mark Zuckerberg, because when they're interviewing him, right?
I remember seeing those clips.
Bro, dude, the guy goes, okay, you own WhatsApp, right? And he's like, yes. I mean, he's a robot, basically, right? I mean, there's not a lot of personality with him. And they go, well, explain to me how you read the information from that text to this text as Meta or Facebook, right? Because we don't, it's end-to-end encrypted. The guy goes, no, I understand it's end-to-end encrypted, but how do you read it? And he's like, it's end-to-end encrypted. We can't read it, Senator. It's impossible. He goes, no, but I know you do. And he's like, no, we don't. And he will not let it go. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. And then the same dude later on that thing says to him, hey, okay, this is a service that you provide for people, Facebook, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, how do you make money if you don't charge membership fees? And he's like, we do advertising. And he goes, so you're telling me you give this away for free? And he's like, no, I make money off of advertising. It's like, Do you think Channel 5 costs the general public money? No. They advertise on there. Right? It's mind-boggling. I'm like watching these senators. I'm like, did no one prep you for this? Are you that, try not to use bad words on here,
silly,
stupid and silly that you don't get how this works? Do you not have a Facebook account, Senator? You know what I mean?
Have you never talked to anyone about this before, but you're doing the questioning?
And then they all pat themselves on the ass like they let Mark Zuckerberg have it. He goes and gets in a G650 and
to his $250 million Hawaiian mansion. Yeah. And he's aggressively taking like native land in Hawaii to build a $250 million doomsday compound that has like 15 floors underground. Like Sam Altman, same thing. Like all the top billionaires that work in tech are building doomsday compounds because either of civil war or AI or probably both.
Speaking of all the top billionaires, they're all in Sun Valley right now for the Allen and Co.
Is that this weekend?
Is that this week? Yeah.
We should drive up there.
I'll send you a video. I'm going up tomorrow.
I got shit to do. Tomorrow morning. You'd never get a mile in that place.
No,
dude.
Sam and I snuck in last year.
Did you really?
I was playing basketball.
It's pretty mellow. I mean, they have snipers.
I like you guys.
They have snipers on all the peaks.
I was playing basketball with like Zuckerberg's kids. Like
Eli walks in. He
did.
schemes his way around. I mean, the thing's so protected that like I don't think they're worried about people sneaking in. I think they're more worried about like mass shooting, mass bombing type thing. Yeah. But yeah, Eli sneaks in, starts playing basketball with Zuck's kid.
Dude, I got called out pretty fast. So like eventually, because like I was like tall, there's a bunch of little kids. I was like, all right, and then I was like walking around and this one guy's like, hey, like, where's your badge? And I was like, oh, like I left, my dad has it, I was trying to find it, like something.
The security there though, it's not like big bodyguard security though, it's like Secret Service, like very, very, very secret.
But the guy strategic. I talked, it's in Idaho
the disappear you type guy.
Exactly. No, for sure. And that's why I was a little worried because like Idaho has a lot of like high-level ex-military people, like ex-Navy SEALs, ex-Green Berets type stuff, and so that's who they hire to do the security for these events, and so it is like top-notch, like kind of private.
It's legit
company stuff.
So this is interesting, actually. So Gulfstream actually brings a semi-truck for maintenance to the Haley Airport because it's the largest concentration of Gulfstreams in the world at one time. And so they bring up their maintenance team to get all the stuff done that these guys need done on their airplanes because they're all
pretty badass.
I like that.
I'd love to like be like Alan. And
Josh sent me a video of the Nike plane yesterday. It's pretty sick.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
so cool.
You know what, dude? We'll have to let's get into that thing more next year. I could probably get us in there, like legit.
That would be pretty crazy.
I think the requirement our dad said, because our dad's a financial advisor with UBS, and I think he said something about Allen and Co. You need like to do either public offering like an IPO or $100 million private transaction to work with them.
We could figure that out through some
we could do that. I think we could do that.
What I was kind of thinking, we could, maybe. I was actually thinking I could probably get it as a guest.
Oh,
enough people that might actually go to that.
I wonder what they talk about. Because I tried sneaking into one of like the conferences, just like I really wanted to hear. But they had it so blocked up.
That's kind of interesting because you don't see clips from it. I'll tell you that.
No, there's definitely no.
And I think there's no phones allowed.
And so
no one talks about it.
My girlfriend's twin sister is so you can sign up to do like the babies. There's different jobs that you can sign up for Allen and Co. And one of them's babysitting. And so Caroline's twin sister Christine is a babysitter at Allen and Co. And one of her friends last year had Zuck's kids actually. But like they have this app on your phone and it tracks every single thing you do, every picture you take, and they make sure and they monitor your phone to make sure you're not taking any pictures or videos of what you're doing with the kids, anything. It's crazy.
Well, when you brought up the NSA earlier, I almost said this too, but people are under the assumption that your phone like isn't like that the government isn't listening to your phone 24/7, which is quite silly considering these are like high-tech surveillance devices and like TikTok, for example, and every app on your phone. When you download an app and make an account on your phone, it has access, unless you explicitly turn it off, to all of your photos, all of your texts, all of your personal data. And that's how these companies like become so valuable. Like Be Real, I think it just either sold or did a round for like $500 million, and that company doesn't make any money. They don't advertise.
They won't do well because it's trendy. I'm calling it now.
Well, I agree. I totally agree. And it's kind of like Snapchat. Like Snapchat stock is down like 85%, 90%, and no recovery. They've tried collabing with Ray-Bans, and then Mark Zuckerberg stole that, which is awesome, honestly. And they tried to.
When you got Zuckerberg after your company, you're gonna be in trouble.
Oh yeah, totally. And look, Zuckerberg. People have his differing opinions. He's a hero of mine. Like when I was looking at going to Harvard instead of Penn, like I was like inspired by his story, like, young guy building in tech, entrepreneur, successful CEO, like might not be the nicest guy, like has definitely scummed some people over, but like he's made it happen. Like he's everywhere. We said his name like 5 times today.
Well, yeah, if you take the best stuff that he's done, it's very admirable.
For sure.
Totally.
You know? In the business world, it's wildly
I think his initial vision was great, like connecting the world on the internet. That's a great vision.
I use Facebook every day. Look for trucks.
Where it gets dark, I think, though, is like, did you read the Facebook papers that were released?
I did not read those.
Dark, dude. It's
the
talking.
psychology's part of it. And
Is it talking about like
people?
marketing and how they're gonna?
It basically said that they knew that Instagram was like causing girls to have like negative self-image and like more depression and higher suicide rates, and they like
they wanted to keep going.
They like upped the algorithm. They were like, it's working.
They
Like,
want you to stay on their app, right? That's why that's why they reward engaging videos on Instagram.
You can't stay on if you kill yourself. But yeah, it's
that's it. But you sacrifice a few outright, and then but you have people that are so
maybe they have
wildly addicted.
Yeah,
totally.
No, Instagram's interesting. I had a friend one time. He said to me, he goes, dude, I really admire your social media. I go, oh, thanks, bro. He just goes, you just put whatever the hell you want up. And I'm like, yeah. I go, like, what do you do? And he's like, well, everything I do is super curated. And I'm like, that's exhausting.
Yeah,
totally.
Like, yeah, no thanks. I mean, I've only got like 4,000 followers. So it's not like I'm some freaking influencer or anything. But like, I don't know, man. I refuse to go, this will be really good for my Instagram.
Yeah, totally. That's
like, I mean, the more you guys see my Instagram, I was literally just like, I'm in the mood. Hit a picture. I'm like, this is in my head right this second. Then I don't think about it. And 99% of the time, I'm sitting in the toilet.
Well, every time I do that, no, I love that. I'm the same.
That's my favorite time to scroll.
It's funny though, because every time I put like something very candid up, like 3 of my friends text me like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" I'm like, just feeling bold today. Like, I feel great. You know, like
No, I put a thing up one time. It was funny. I was having a rough day, and I went through a period of time a couple of years ago where I felt like I wasn't that good of a dad. You know, because when my kids were little, I built my businesses, right? So I was gone a lot, right? And in my head, it's way worse than it looks, right? If you looked at my life, you'd be like, you weren't gone all that much, but I was, right? I just really I can't remember my kids little.
How many kids do you have?
3. I got 3 kids, and so
how old are they?
So 14, 12, and 8.
Nice.
So
You got time. You got time to make up for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm with them all the time now. I mean,
That's
it's
awesome.
And we homeschool and I teach them, and like there's all this cool stuff I do with them now, right? Right now I feel like I'm a really good dad, but I was starting to lose weight at the same time, so I've lost like 80 pounds in the last year.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, it's like
Crazy. You're a stud.
And so I go to the gym. And I'm not with my kids, and I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, meet me at Goodwood, right? Because I'm like, let's go get me some meat, and then I'm going to finish the gym up. So it's like 8 o'clock at night, right? I'm beat. I've been up since like 5 or 6, something like that. Went to work, went to the gym, just one of those days, right? And I'm like sitting there, and I'm sitting there with my kids, and my son says to me, he must have been like 9, right? He just goes, what did he exactly say to me? I said something, and he goes, well, I know Kevin Hart better than I know you.
Wow.
And I go, what do you mean, buddy? And he's like, I just know Kevin Hart, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, this. And he's trying to be funny, right? Like he was trying to crack a joke. And he's just like me. He's just always kind of teasing people and blah, 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 right? And I knew that. Like I knew that whole thing. And dude, it hit me like a freaking samurai sword cut me in half. And like, I started feeling sad. And like, I'm like, how can you not know your own dad? Like I sleep over with you all the time and like all these things, right? And he just starts going off to the next thing, and eats a French fry and starts talking about something else, right?
Yeah, and
he
doesn't think twice about it.
You're just,
nothing. And I'm just like, spiraling. It is like blowing a hole in my chest. And I'm like, but I'm smart enough to know, I'm like, this is so stupid, Mark. Why are you getting all emotional about this? So I'm in a separate car, right? So I tell Michelle, I'm like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. I text her. I said, hey, I need to be alone for a minute. I'm just going to bounce out of here. So just pay the bill and I'll see you at home, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, all right, love you. And dude, I come home and I hadn't taken a shower, so I've been sitting on the toilet, take my clothes off while the shower's heating up, right? And I just do an Instagram post. And I do a picture of Kevin Hart and I just write this thing and I said, hey dude, today my son said this thing about me and it just hit me hard. It just makes me want to be a better dad and I hope everyone, blah, 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 whatever. Right?
Totally.
Wow. And dude, and then I take my phone, I throw it on my nightstand like I normally do. It's like probably 9:30 or 10 now, right? And I don't look at it till the next morning. Dude, I wake up, to freaking
calls and texts.
15 voicemails, unlimited texts, dude. Like, but most of them were like, I feel the same way. Well, and then the DMs that I had, they weren't checking on me per se. I mean, some of my friends were just like, Mark, shut the hell up. You're a freaking fantastic dad. I look up to you kind of thing, right? But a lot of them it was like, thank you for sharing this. I feel the same way sometimes, just over and over and over. Because when I woke up, I'm like, that's like a self-serving, give me a like post, and I don't like doing those. So I was going to pull it down. So literally the first thing I did, I opened my phone, I'm like, I got messages. I went to Instagram and I went to like, I saw my notifications and it's like 200 likes, 75 comments. And I'm like, whoa, it's like, it's still to this day, the most interacted post I've ever had.
Oh, no way.
And it's just because I was just being honest and real in that one moment.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do more of that then. If I feel like something, like, I don't know if you guys see that thing I posted yesterday about God and the universe.
I saw it, but I didn't look into it.
Yeah. So I do it every morning. When I get on the treadmill, I just walk on the treadmill and I look at the universe. I try and understand.
I did see that. I actually was meant to ask you about it today. Yeah.
Yeah. I try and, I'm literally trying to find any evidence for God.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm doing, It's fun too, right? I mean, the universe is wildly interesting.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And there's just math everywhere. Like the more you look at it, it's just math and math and math, like the mass of black holes versus the mass of this, and then like the gravitational pull and like Stephen Hawking's and Einstein and all these theories that like it actually is the backbone of a lot of things that happen in our world.
Totally.
Right? And so, but what I'm actually doing is trying to be like, well, that makes sense for God and that makes sense for God. And I could see where his or her hand is in this at some level, right?
Yeah.
Because right now, you take the Big Bang, right? It's basically you take all the mass of the universe and you pull it down to the head of a pin, right? That is how tight that was wound up before it exploded.
Right.
And so it's like, well, did it just explode or did someone explode it? Well, and you don't know till you die. That's another fun thing. This is I'm chasing a ghost, right? Like they'll never find anything, but I'd like to look.
Yeah.
And so,
totally.
but like some people, like if I tell people about it, I'm like, yeah, like space. And they're like, oh, cool, Mark's into space. And I'm like, no, I'm actually trying to find God. That is what I'm trying to do. And that's why I like space, because I'm trying to find it. But when you post stuff like that, it's funny because people really connect with it. Yeah. They're like, yeah, me too, man. I left a religion, or I'm at this part of my life. And like, I have no idea if God exists, like bad things happen. I don't get it, And it's kind of endears you to people. Yeah. But it's just a freaking thought that I had. And I just post it.
Interesting. That's amazing. A couple of quick things on that. First of all, like I also do that, and like the math thing, like Sam joked about me always being gifted and talented. Like I think it's actually just some mild autism or Asperger's, because like
I call it HFA, high functioning autism.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not kidding, Mark. Since I was a young kid, like I've seen the world in numbers, like 2, 4, 3, like everywhere, and like looking at like the clock, or like I'm almost guided by numbers in a lot of ways, I think. And Tesla did the same thing, and I've recently watched some pretty interesting stuff on that. But one time that was like a really impactful experience for me. Shortly after my grandma on my dad's side passed, the grandma on my mom's side, the LDS one, amazing woman, like just, crushing it. So sweet, so awesome. She was like, just try reading like one page of the Book of Mormon and like watch something good happen. And I was like, whatever, I will. And she's like, read a sentence, read a paragraph, like just try it. And like, I remember like doing that, and then walking out of my house, and like usually there's in Philly it's a lot of traffic, whatever, and then all of a sudden like I thought of and like felt connected to my grandma on my dad's side, and it was like a feeling of warmth and love that would like be representative of Jesus or God or religion, like God loves you, and I like felt her love in that moment, and somehow there were just no cars, and I just like walked right across like a usual intersection that would have like hundreds of cars. So I was like, wow, like that was like a big moment for me where I was like, all right, God's real, or something's real,
with God, it's like, because I was really religious, right? I was a go to the temple every month kind of guy, right? Like your example, your example Mormon guy, and I look at that stuff and I'm always like, is this causation or correlation? I ask that like more than you can ever imagine.
Yes, that in business deals a lot. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. People will really like, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is correlated, and I'm like, yes, that does not mean it's connected. It doesn't mean that this caused that.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's a massive difference, right?
Absolutely.
Because, people will be like, they can tell any story. You can convince, well, that's the problem, right? You convince yourself of anything.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why the futile search for God's interesting, right? Because you're like, every time I try and find evidence from him, well, then I can logically unwind it. But then it's also very poignant. And you just have to decide, right? Well, here's the decision, right? You either have faith or you don't.
Yeah. Going into the fatherhood thing a bit, I've been spending a lot of time on this. Just finished my tenure as the president of Morton's Real Estate Club, like 500 people, was president of my fraternity, and specifically last semester I was on pledge staff for my fraternity. And one of my buddies, like one of my best friends in the world, Josh Beck, huge shout out, he grew up basically without a father entirely. Raised by his mom, who's a full-time doctor, so she's barely around. So him and his brothers raised themselves in like a gnarly part of LA, like super gnarly, like rural, not rural, but like poverty-ridden part of LA. And we were on pledge staff together, and we did a fall class that was like 10 people, and then we helped recruit like a 30-person spring class. And one of the spring pledges was talking to us, and he's like, you know, like something about like what makes a good outcome in a pledging process. And Josh is like, think about like your experience, you know, with your dad, like what makes a good kid, what makes a good person. And it's like, how much time did you spend with them? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the strongest male figures, you know, like everyone's father, if you're lucky enough to know them, like Trump, Andrew Tate, Huberman, whoever, Joe Rogan, like maybe not all these like, you know, right-leaning guys, but anyone on either side, even Biden, like all these male role models that we're supposed to look up to, we only get in small glimpses. We only get small windows of the ability to perceive them. And a lot of times people do really curate how they're perceived. Like people spend, you know, months or years working up to a 10-minute media appearance, right? Or an hour-long podcast or whatever. Yeah. And that's because, you know, they're trying to hide like the difficulty that they've gone through and put on this perfect face. Like for a kid, you know, I know our dad's talked about this. Like he's like, he could be battling the world, dealing with like a bunch of stuff, like mentally not doing well, but he has to put on that face like everything's okay because he's the leader, he's the dad, and he needs to be someone that like we can feel strong and confident in. And I think like because of that, not to mention needing to provide, like being at work all the time, like going out and doing stuff for yourself, trying to stay healthy, like all that, it's very time consuming. And then when you mix that with needing to put on that good face, you almost choose to be very selective with the time that you spend with people because you want it to be received and perceived in a very, you know, positive way.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's a switch gears real quick here.
Yeah.
Tell us about your company.
I think in order to talk about the company, we've got to give you a little brief background first. You want to start?
Yes, I'll start. I first started doing business with Sam when I was 10 years old and he was 8.
we were partners from day one.
Yeah. Locked in. But yeah, no, truly so Sam and I are 3rd generation money managers. Our grandpa was with Morgan Stanley for over 30 years. Our dad started his own division within UBS. Very cool, impressive stuff. So yeah, ever since we were young, you know, one of the more impactful like experiences with my dad was him sitting me down and doing like times tables with me and teaching me math and multiplication, division, and I loved it. I was like, number
thing that you're doing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I love numbers, genuinely. And you know, then starts introducing me to stocks when we're around 12 and like starting to see like how you value a company and like, so we've been doing it for a while, but the first business we did was a golf ball and lemonade stand. We lived on the Park City Municipal Golf Course 6-hole, which was like a straight shot, and there was a golf path on it. So when golfers would hit their balls and they hit the golf path, they'd almost certainly come for our house. Yeah. And so we would
we were jerks.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I don't know about jerks. We were opportunistic.
We were running a monopoly.
Yeah. So basically, the golfers would hit their balls into our yard. We would get them, clean them, sell them back to them.
Yeah. After we'd prank them. So we'd go air horn them on the drive.
Oh, that was our younger brother. I didn't do that. That was Josh.
And then we'd run down and then sell them something.
Oh, really? Nice.
So funny.
But no, it was like surprisingly a really good business. I mean, we obviously like had a lot of support from our parents, so like have to, you know, of course, give them a huge shout out. But like we had
lowered your cost of goods sold.
Yeah, we had 100% profit margins. We were killing it. Yeah. But no, truly, we had like $100 days, you know, at 10 years old. So that's pretty killer.
Yeah, there were a couple days where we were bringing in over $100 and we donate everything to the homeless.
10% to charity.
10% to charity. Yeah, I got a picture of Nancy and I'll show you after. Yeah. But no, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was cool.
But so then I don't know, I just became like obsessed with the concept of money, not because like I'm like greedy, but because it's like, oh, money is how you pay for food. Money is how you pay for a taxi or a car or a house. Like you need money to function in society. Yeah, absolutely. So I like I got lifeguard certified the next summer and did a babysitting business, made some really good money there. Did some landscaping, hated it. Realized I don't want to do physical labor for money. And then, you know, probably my first like really successful venture was a college counseling company I did after getting into like all the IVs and stuff. I was like, you know, had the credentials to do something like that. Made like $5,000 a month as an 18-year-old. So I was like, wow, you know, money's awesome. Probably didn't spend it in the best way. Should have invested more. But yeah, so then I realized that like, okay, you can use your expertise or like the way that you see the world to add value to someone who doesn't see the world in the ways that you see it. So the next business I started was a consulting business. Landed Sotheby's as our first client, was unbelievable. to be able to like work with realtors that are selling $40 million houses on like their website and their CRM and their scripts and, you know, their pipeline of prospective clients. And so that was just absolutely incredible. Got the chance to work in like all of Park City's gated communities like Promontory, Glenwild. Colony isn't gated, but it's the most expensive. And it was just like the most rad experience. Like, yeah, Victory Ranch, Wolf Creek, High Star, like these are like in my opinion, like some of the nicest places to live on the planet. Yeah. And I was just like, you know, how these realtors are paying me to tell them how to do their job. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah. But no, in reality, I did like a lot of grunt work. I wrote like 20 years of scripts for people, and then I would use like I do a bunch of research on different CRM systems, and then basically like set them up with the best system for them, put them on like 20-year email campaigns with, you know, 50,000 people across the country, and then just like bring them clients. Had some really good results. One of my clients like reported a $30 million increase in sales volume after I implemented some systems for him. So I was like, all right, there's a huge opportunity here in the delta of technology that we know about, our generation and the older generation knows about, and we can fill that gap and capture that value. And so that was like a big realization. Also working with the realtors, didn't have the best experience, like a lot of promises, a lot of big promises. This one guy, the $30 million increase guy, like offered me $10K a month and a Rolex and gave me like $3K a month and an Apple Watch. Like, I'm not complaining, but you can't set the expectation high and then come, you know, so especially when I had the results. Like, it'd be one thing if I was missing the mark and he was like, hey, you missed the mark, so this is missing the mark, but no, exceeded the mark and you underperformed there. Yeah. And so I was really turned off. Sam and I loved real estate for a long time. Like, you know, when we were first born, I'll also add, like, my dad especially came from nothing. Like, he grew up in a tough part of Baltimore, like tough family situation. Dad was 19, mom was 31 when
sleeping upstairs at their natural food store.
Oh, cool.
Started working when he was 6, yeah, like full time.
Getting paid, you know, 25 cents an hour or something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so like when my parents got pregnant with me, they were both like, you know, working service jobs.
They were both dishwashers on Main Street in Park City.
Or my mom was doing massages.
Serving, Dad was
massages, I think.
Oh yeah. And Dad was a dishwasher at Texas Reds in Park City.
Yeah.
And he was a server at Grappa, if you know Grappa on Main Street. Yeah, he was a server there.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So basically, like, when I was born, my dad was like, all right, I need to make some money, and like joined the, you know, financial services industry. But it was cool because growing up, you know, like, we lived in an apartment from age 1 to 2 for me. And then when we had Sam, we moved to a place in Trailside, and my parents would rent out the basement to someone for extra income and to help cover the mortgage. So from an early age, we saw like the power of real estate to bolster your income. And then, you know, they sold that house, moved to Thanes. Thanes is less than a mile from Park City Mountain Resort. So when PCMR was bought by Vail, all of those property values tripled overnight. Couldn't have predicted that, but like, great play. And so we then moved to Park Meadows, which is a really nice neighborhood in Park City, and, you know, more than tripled on the sale because of like COVID and, you know, population doubling in Park City, like crazy stuff. And we sold it to like a top exec at YouTube, who basically like paid a ridiculous amount of money for it, renovated it, tried to sell it, couldn't sell it. Like, you know, but a lot of like the value my parents created was with their own hands. Like, my mom loves interior design. My dad, like, you know, really other than plumbing, did a lot. You know, he would like, you know, help with the cabinets, you know, even try to fix the plumbing himself. Like, and my grandpa's the same way. They, you know, are really tactical and like to like try to do as much themselves as they can. You know, of course they'll outsource if they have to, but that was like a big thing for us, is seeing like, you create value by doing work. You don't create value by like, you know, sitting on stuff, unless you're sitting on Apple or Tesla or something that, you know, you have a crystal ball. But that was like why I started loving real estate so much. So I knew I wanted to be in real estate. The Sotheby's experience was great, but not amazing. And that's when I realized I wanted to be on the ownership side. So I started doing a ton of recruiting for like top real estate private equity firms, had some exceptional offers, not only in PE, but also in like prop tech. And there's a lot of interesting prop tech companies I was going to work with. But then COVID happened my sophomore year, and I realized I wanted to be closer to the family out here in Utah. Kind of had, you know, like, not forgotten, but I just like put it on the back burner to be in Utah because I wanted to be on the East Coast so bad. And then I remembered this awesome opportunity with a huge firm out here, joined them, got a full-time offer, stayed on for 2 years, underwrote like hundreds of billions of dollars of real estate. It was the most insane experience, like learned how to start funds, operate them. Yeah. And that led to the creation of Black Mountain, with that same concept of the Sotheby's technology thing, where there's like a massive gap between where the asset management world is today, in terms of technological capabilities, and where it could be. And like, we can capture that value by building tech to manage assets better.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now we got connected on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I messaged you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Speaking of the power of tech.
You're like the one people that I've probably like really. I mean, I've got a few connections off of there, but like, I don't know.
I
agree.
I think I actually need to learn LinkedIn better. I need to engage with it better for me. But
our buddy who sold those 2 companies, they were literally just LinkedIn automation businesses, like pretty low level. Like probably cost him $300 a month per client, charged him $5,000 a month. Like, yeah. So we can help you if you want with that. Cost.
I'll give you a little bit of background and then how we got started working together. I never really started a business growing up, so to say. I kind of just found different ways to make myself money. The first one was with cars. I always loved cars. Cars and airplanes were like my 2 things. Yeah. And so I always just spent hours looking at Marketplace, looking at KSL. And I started to pick up on trends. Like, okay, this car looks like it could sell for more money. Why is this selling for so cheap and whatever? And I would just watch it sell. And it's like, what if I could start doing this myself? And so I bought my first car for $3,500 with the help of Dad, I think a little bit, when I was 15. I just painted new wheels on it, put new wheels on it, painted some stuff, you plastic at the back and make it look a little bit cooler, and then you sell it for more. And I just got another car and did it again, and got another car and did it again. And by the time I graduated high school, I think I had 5 different cars, and each one increasing in value. And the whole goal was like I really wanted to go to the Olympics. I was trying to take ski racing to the next level and then hit my head and then play lacrosse again. I was trying to take that to the next level. Anyways, just landed on flight school. And that was the goal. But at Embry-Riddle, I was like, I miss doing what I wanted to do, which is car flipping, whatever, business. And then when I came back to Utah for that opportunity at Soul-Jets, it was amazing. Like, I was at their first ever intern, so I was doing a lot of great data analytics stuff. Actually helped work on some of the data analytics with a deal with, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, one of the co-founders of Ethereum that bought a $20 million Falcon from Soul-Jets, which was amazing. Anyways, then I re-enrolled in the University of Utah and took a job with a company down here in Orem, actually. Yeah, which you know who it was with. And great experience, actually. I learned so much about funds. I learned so much about how to help people with funds. And I learned so much about how they just work and operate and how, I could do one day, whatever. I did well, made a lot of money for the company, made a lot of money for myself. And at that time, Eli and Kyle were starting the Jupiter Fund. Yeah. And I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about that publicly, but they were working on that. And I was working down here in Orem. And like 8 or 9 months later, we were kind of like, hey, look, like I actually tried to start working with them originally. And Eli kind of was like, hey, dude, you don't really know much about funds. And I was like, that's totally fair.
It was more like, we're still figuring out our own shit. Like, we don't want to bring you into the shitstorm, Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah. But I mean, like 9 months later, we were kind of like, looked at each other and I was like, what are we doing? Like, you're so smart here. I'm so smart here. Like, and Kyle's so smart here. We could each sit in our own lane and collaborate and like do something big. And like Alex Hormozy says, he's like, adding one more person doesn't add 33% value to your business. It adds 10x if you do it right. Yeah. So we all partnered like November of
after Sam had consulted on like 300 funds. So like it was very
it was like 250 or 300 people that I had helped kind of just strategize the fund creation. I talked to a guy that did an avocado farm, a bunch of people that did dentist office, and I was working with some pretty legit people. And I was 21 at the time. I was like sick. I bought my dream Raptor. It was a $50,000 truck. I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. But then we kind of collaborated and I helped bring a little bit more of a simplified offer to what Black Mountain was doing, and Eli and Kyle were working on the fund. And over the past almost 2 years, we've kind of pivoted 20 different times, but I feel like we're really starting to finalize what we want to be doing.
I think it's been, not necessarily pivoting, but like just kind of like funneling down.
Just sort of settling into our niche. Because I mean, you get it, you want to do so many different things. And
also like adaptation is kind of the biggest indicator of success, right? Like when we were doing, kind of fund creation stuff more, we realized the space is pretty crowded, so you have to adapt. And so I think for everyone, like being able to adapt and kind of turn on a dime is something really valuable.
Yeah,
totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so
that's awesome.
It's kind of broken. It's broken down in like 3 legs. Like the first thing is the consulting side, or we're partnered with the legal team out of New York, so we'd say they're in-house because they have a small piece of our company, and so we're able to help people set up their fund and manage their fund. Eli's built this amazing fund administration software that we're starting to bring clients on and commercialize here within the next little bit, and so that's like one side of it, which is awesome because we can take an upfront fee and then we can take a management fee for doing the fund administration, and then second part of the company is the hedge fund, the Jupiter Fund, which we actually operate our own fund, and Kyle's our portfolio manager. It's done extremely well. It's amazing. We're actually closing that at the end of July here, which is great. And then the third part is
make sure you send me the PPM next week.
Yeah, right.
Got you.
Yeah, no, we're excited about that actually.
We automated that. We have tech to.
Yeah,
so you
it's
just
good.
do type
Pretty
form.
sick. We're gonna send you the investor onboarding, and it's gonna be sick. You're gonna see how it's all integrated. It's cool.
I'm actually excited for that. That'd be cool.
No, yeah, we're super.
It's super.
Excited.
We try to make it frictionless because, at first, having people sign 50-page PPMs is they're like, this is freaky, and we're like, yeah. So yeah.
Totally. I know every time I raise money, people are like, what the hell is this? And I'm just like, this is part of it.
I need to cover my own butt. Yeah.
But Mark, this third sector of the company, which we've kind of not accidentally discovered, but came across it I took the same strategy from flipping cars. Right? Buy something for cheaper, you can make it better and sell it for more. I was like, how do I scale that? You could do that with airplanes or something more expensive, but ultimately you could also do that with something that cash flows. And that's when I was like, businesses. And so
we were like, how do we make money when crypto and stock markets are going down?
Totally.
Buying distressed assets at cash flow.
Yeah.
And so we found this middle market essentially, because Black Man Investment Group is not big enough to be taking down these $50 million, $100 million deals right now that these older, bigger institutions are taking down. And we're big enough where we don't want to be taking down these super small companies and assets that just aren't worth our time. So there's this empty middle market where acquisitions are made that, for example, our most recent acquisition, McNick & Company, we bought that company for well below replacement cost. And depending on how much we'll do this, we'll probably do $700,000 in revenue this year from that small acquisition. That's pretty unheard of. And it took me 3 months to find, but the owner, amazing guy. He's a helicopter firefighter pilot in Chicago, and he was looking to get into a real estate deal with his dad. He's been running it for 9 years and didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But to Sam's point, we really stress test the underwriting for this, and it's cool because Jupiter's PPM is very broad. It's okay, we can invest in whatever. Obviously we have a strategy, but if crypto markets are going down, stock markets are going down, but because of that, business owners are selling their assets for cheaper and they're cash flowing heavy users. We're like, all right, this is great. And so how we structure that is we give LPs a huge piece of the pie for taking that risk, and then we get a piece of the pie for doing the takeover, the operations, the diligence, all that. And so it's a perfect alignment of incentives that's common, I guess, but the combination of that structure is pretty new, I'd say.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, cool.
And then we hope to expand into the real estate fund here August 1st.
Yeah, we'd love to talk with you more about that offline because have some ideas and a lot of people are, even today at 5, I have a call with somebody who wants to throw money in real estate. So we need to make some moves. I got to go to the bank first and set up something. Yeah.
No, we'll have to chat about that. We got 2 minutes before the SD cards run out.
Yours turned up.
We're not on the camera no more.
Bummer.
I think it'll be fun, dude. If you guys are up to it, we should probably redo this again in 6 months and
dude, let's do
talk about the growth you guys have had between now and then.
I would love to, because right now I would love to take down a bigger deal right now, because McNick & Company we acquired for off camera $180,000, which is
you can say that, that's fine.
$180,000. It's
did $1 million in revenue in 2020.
It's a 1x profit multiple or less, which is crazy. So we'll make our money back this year. Awesome. But I want to take down a $5 to $10 million service-based business. It's probably hopefully locally.
What's so exciting about right now, similar to politics, is a lot of the old people are either dying or retiring and leaving these great businesses.
Yeah, boomers, time to buy businesses.
Totally. So. And there's no middle market, like Sam said, genuinely, because all the biggest PE firms have gotten so large that B-REIT is probably the best example of this. It's a bit of a far side of the spectrum example, but they raised $100 billion that they had to deploy. At least parts of it. And so they were buying, assets in a 4% interest rate environment at 4% cap rates. Very silly. Very silly. And so I think right now we're in a great spot where there's no one really in this kind of sub $5 million acquisition market, or fewer people than in the 50 million plus, which is funny. You wouldn't think that, but it's true. And it's because the education.
No, that's 100% true. Yeah.
Yeah. And because the natural growth the natural flow of any company or any organization is growth, right? You want to grow, but because of M&A, these companies have grown so fast that they're now too big to put experts on smaller deals. So yeah.
Well, cool, dude. Well, let's wrap this bad boy up. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
Let's
Mark.
do it. Yeah, thank you
awesome.
so much for having us.
Yeah, we'll do this again. This will be fun. So we'll clip this up. We'll throw it on social media. People interact with us.
Love
and follow if you're listening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like and follow.
Bye, boys.
McCormick.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram at President McCormack.